Welcome to another episode of Creepypasta Storytime. Today's creepypasta is called Eversion. There lies a darker world under us, an aversion of all there is, though I wonder if that place is more real than ours. I wake up to darkness. I might as well not have woken up, considering that closing your eyes has the same effect. I move the palm of my hand in vast circles and see only the outer edges. This makes me breathe out of my nose at the sight. The drone of the alarm continues as I blink, and my eyes begin to adjust to the dim glow in the room. I slam my hand out on the table next to me and silence the alarm. I try to fall back into the void of sleep, for those evanescent dreams had more of that substance, I don't know what to call it, that I can see and enjoy dancing to and fro in joyful delight, unheard of on this world. Yet I can't sleep. I have to get up. The whisper tells me to get up. So I raise my body and crack my back. I look around my room with its corroded walls, makeshift stands that you might call tables, and a TV that has a crack in the middle. I scratch my head and place my bare feet on the festering floor. The day begins. The whispering begins. Like air, they are constantly there. Like air, they are always around me. I start with the daily grind. I use the murky shower water that is centuries old to wash myself of yesterday's grime with more grime. I then go into the kitchen and eat the stale cereal and place on myself my moth-ridden clothing. As I put on my clothes, I hear the whispers telling me to leave. This is a reminder that I am alone in this house, and I take greater time to leave. I then splash some water on my face and blink 3 times. I inhale and exhale. The daily grind is over. I put on my shoes and let the cold air outside. I do not have to squint like I do in my dreams, for the clouds always make sure that the atmosphere is nothing but hues of the grayscale. I'm going, I cry to the empty house. I hear a slight sound that approves my going, and I move my feet over the threshold. A few steps forward, I turn around to get a quick reality check on my surroundings. I see my apartment all ravaged and bare, and the paint peeling off in a myriad of angels. The shingles of the roof are torn off, and I can see weeds going through its cracks of the apartment's foundation. The decimated glass of the window is the newest thing on the building, and even they were beginning to fade from their old splendor. Yep, business as usual. I crack my neck again and move through the broken parkways and in on the sidewalk. I would take the streets, since they would be a more direct path towards the school, but I can still hear the whistle of car tires, and I'm fearful for some reason that they will come and hit me. So I keep myself on the sidewalk and continue until I reach the crosswalk that leads to the dead field. The dead field is a vast expanse of pale grass that connects the school to my apartment, and I use it to cut on having to look at anything near me. It's been there since the day I was born, if I recall. Trees, I've been told, once dotted it and created a tranquil area around it that made it pleasant to walk through. But now, it's all just a husk of its old splendor. Dead grass is all that dots the patches of the decaying field. Dead grass always swaying in defeat instead of trees leaving swaying in splendor. Dead, moving perpetually, full death, forever. The best part is that this field is the one the most life for miles on end. It is the most fertile, the most luxurious, though it was still not pleasant to the eyes. If it weren't for these features, I would be taking a much longer path towards the school, for even after all of these years of living in this place, it is still disconcerting to see the city in its now ravaged state. I hear a whisper, and I move on from these reminiscent thoughts. As I reach the crosswalk, I wait for a moment, for the whistle of the tires to cease. I pretend that when the whistling stops, the cars and the people inside them also stop and let me through. It makes me feel less forlorn in this desolate and creates a sense of filling in the empty space of these roads. When the whistles finally held their cries, I walked out through the faded crosswalk and quickly took a right towards the field. I looked around and saw the clouds above were not moving as always, and that the dead grass was swaying back and forth with the calm wind. Everything above and below was placed in the same spot of motion. It was as if everything was stuck on repeat. Again, business as usual. I placed my hands in the pockets of my faded jeans and calmly walked through the field. It usually takes me around 5 minutes to get to the other end of the field, another 5 to reach the school. Seconds slugging by as I drew closer each step. All of this, like I said, has been that way for as long as I can remember. Clouds being overhead, the dead grass, the people. You can call it a tragedy. It wouldn't be hyperbole to say it in the least. One teen with no one but himself, one teen in a society long forgotten and left there barren and naked, and one teen that doesn't even have the privilege to have angst over anything that is living. That there, in this deplorable world, is nothing but I. A loving, simple understanding of tragedy in the most wild aspect. Just I. It's almost romantically poetic, and it makes me think. All of it makes me think, really, and I stop in my tracks. I hear a whisper telling me to go on, but I ignore it. For the first time in quite some time, I think of the burden that I have been going through. Contrary to the above romance, this tragedy world, anything but it. When I feel this burden, I think, and when I think, I become aware. And when I become aware, I see the world. This is bad, I whisper. If I see, I will be taken away. I can't think about my surroundings, how bad I have it. Stan, why are you thinking? Stop, stop, stop. Yet even with those words, my mind continues to whirl. In that horrible moment, the world opened up through eyes that were not aglaze. So sudden was that revelation of sight that I almost lost my balance. My mind now so clear that it was almost hazy. I was completely surprised at my sudden lack of apathy to my surroundings. In horror, I realized how overcast the clouds were, as if there was something from a dream that was turning into a reality. There, with glazed eyes wide open, I could hear the wind shriek like a woman running for her life, as if a man were chasing her down the hall. There, with trembling hands, I could see the grass fall flat against the shrieks, and a far-off beating of thunder grew louder. There, right there, I let go, and let the elements take me into their torrential rainfall. How many times I wished to let go and fall, to let my body go on the ground, disappear along with my soul. I would let the soft rain come into this world, as a man from a story once said, and lightly place their fingertips on me. I know I make it sound like a nice little dream, but that's where I want it all to be. Dream. In my dreams, I do not have to be in an eternal death sentence. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be the wayfaring stranger. All I want to do is be a kid who doesn't need to think. A kid who doesn't think in grand, exuberant words to calm himself, but in bits and phrases. I don't want to be, but I am. Through this torment, I feel a wave of warmth blast me and push me away from these sounds and sights of the world. I grasped my heart and wavered in a place where time did not exist and yet motion did. I become dazed, mind spinning, endless spinning, eternally spinning. Eventually my legs unfroze and I fell over. As I lay dying, I heard a faint cry from someone. It was someone I knew from a long time. In fact, I could have sworn there was almost a name to that voice. Kyle? No, almost. I stopped listening to it anymore. I ignored the voices and whispers, and I let myself fall into an eternal sleep where I would never wake up. No, he's going into another seizure, but this one he's not shaking off. Stand up. Wake up, stand up, do something for Christ's sake. I'm right next to him, yet he doesn't hear me. He's scrambling, crying, moaning, in a fit unparalleled to any of his others. Just a few seconds ago, I was walking with him through a crosswalk, and a minute ago, I was just getting him out of bed. How can such simple things die so quickly? Now all that is happening to him, in a grand maw that is taking his life. I try to call for help, but in this field there's no signal. Stan's rambling's right, this is a dead field. I turn my neck towards him to see a final spasm before he fell silent. I slant myself on the ground and try to hear his pulse. There was a slight beat, but the beats were so soft that I mistook it for mine. I place my ear close to his mouth and I can feel a tickle of light speaking. Free. Free at last. And with that, his breath stopped. I looked down at him to see that his eyes were closed, and there was a type of serenity to his face. I shake my head and run out towards the end of the field, where I finally got a signal. It didn't take them long to find us and take Stan's body. As soon as they took him, I stood there shaking, thinking of his last words. Could it be that perhaps that he only saw a morbid form of this world, a form that entrapped his entire being in an eternal hell of loneliness and despair? I cringe in thinking of this idea. Yet if this was true, he had finally left that awful nightmare. He had left the inside-out world and gone to a better one, or at least that's what I tell myself as I shiver in that cold. Still, there is only one thing that continues to claw at my mind with cold, dead talons. Was that a version of Stan? Something he witnessed throughout his entire life, something not too far from the truth? Was what I was seeing but a figment of something more cruel and awful? Did Stan's world actually exist more than mine? I pray that is not true. I pray Stan's earth into the back of my mind to rot in manure and dust.